So, Mr. Connor, the purpose of this interview is just for our research on the Lake Park neighborhood, the beach, and the lighthouse. So, we would be using uh, your interview for some of the clips in our documentary, and it will be public, but there's no risk to it. So, this is just for your consent. So, do you agree to it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, Mr. Connor, tell me about your background.
My background is education. Is that?
Yeah.
I've been an educator since 1974. So it's almost 40 years that I've been in education. From middle school, high school, as an administrator, building principal. I retired from all that, and now I'm part-time adjunct at the university level. I teach teachers working on their master's degree in education, preparing them to become an administrator.
So, are you a resident of Milwaukee since you were a child?
I was born in Milwaukee and resided there for about 8 years, and then we moved to the suburbs. I live in Greendale now. I've been living there for 25 years.
So, how come you are a part of the lighthouse activities here?
Okay. When I was a child living in Milwaukee, my grandparents lived not far from here, off of Newberry on Murray Avenue. So as a child, when we'd come through Lake Park, it was always an exciting thing, and I would see this lighthouse. Just about the time I decided to retire from being a building principal, I noticed that they were running a fundraiser to restore this place. And I thought I would check back in on that when things were right, and I did. They said they could use help. And so I began to provide tours, and then eventually I became a member of the board. Now I'm an officer on the board of directors. But I still provide tours on Sundays because I meet so many people from around the states, around the world, and it's good fun.
Do you have any memories about coming here being a child? Anything specific which others don't know about the lighthouse?
Only that the lighthouse was here and that it was still working. The light was still on at that point. Most people in the suburbs did not even know there was a lighthouse here.
How long you used to spend time with your grandparents here?
Well, I spent time at their house, not here.
But
them.
you were there in the neighborhood, so you
Yes.
used to visit places around.
Yes, we'd go through this park. And then as a student at UWM, for my master's degree, I was in this area quite a bit as well. Lived on this part of town for a while. And so I saw, well, actually I saw how this place was starting to deteriorate. Yeah.
So do you have any other memory of this house being used as a residence and then it stopped being used as a residence?
Yes, when I
can you
was a
describe-
child, when we go through the park, it was a residence at that point. And even when I was working on my master's degree at UWM, the Coast Guard was still running it. And in '94, then it was turned off, shut down, and then no more people here, the light was turned off. And the
Why?
question
Because
was,
it was
it was no longer needed. Once they got to the point of having GPS, the government, which owns all of the lighthouses, they realized they didn't need lighthouses any longer. And it was costing them a lot of money to maintain, staff all these lighthouses. So they began shutting off the lights, and then they would donate the property to a nonprofit, or if no nonprofit wanted it, they put it up for auction. And that had to do with all the lighthouses. There is one lighthouse that the United States government is hold keeping, and that's the Boston Light on Little Brewster Island off of Massachusetts. But all the rest either go to some group like ourselves, North Point Lighthouse Friends Incorporated, could be a state historical society, could be part, some of them are on property that's part of the National Park Service, and others are purchased by private investors. So there's very few lighthouses that the government now owns, but most of the lighthouses have been taken and restored, but for various uses. Ours is for a museum, and we try to maintain the history, the importance of the lighthouse, its relation to the city of Milwaukee, and to all those immigrants that came here, and also how it fits into this neighborhood with this North Point neighborhood, the Lake Park, and how all this really fits together along the lakefront, which has always been an attractive place for the people of Milwaukee to come to and visit.
Do you remember any incidents when you decided, or when everybody decided to have this place as a museum or a gallery, and there was some kind of opposition from the people of the neighborhood?
Yeah, that was before I was part of this, so I can't speak to that in detail, but the Lake Park Friends and the Historic Water Tower Association, they had gotten together to say, what could we do with this? And then out of those discussions attracted other people from the neighborhood, like John Script, our president, John Bach, who's on the board as well, Dave O'Brien, who was part of Lake Park Friends, Joe Libnock, who's part of the Historic Water Tower Association, and they formed this new entity, the North Point Lighthouse Friends, Inc., and then their job was to raise money. Although they did get a sizable grant from the government to help completely restore the keeper's quarters and then paint the tower and add electricity.
Are there any other parts of the house which are added to the house to make it a gallery? Other than,
No,
earlier it was a residence, and then were there any things which were added?
no. What you see here was this and upstairs and the basement. Those really were the same areas that the keepers lived in. And I don't recall how many bedrooms are down here: kitchen, living room, dining room, family room. The only thing that the bathrooms that are here, and there's an office above here, that space there was, you could say added. This was extended out so that they could have bathrooms for the visitors. And you can see that by the foundation in the basement. You can see the original foundation, and then in this part you see newer type of masonry work.
So there was a change in function of the house from a residence to a gallery. But
Yes.
still we say that, okay, it's a building restored, but the function has changed. The building is catering to doing something which it was not doing earlier.
Right.
So in what sense we are preserving the place? Yeah, I mean, how can we say that just by preserving the building, we are restoring something?
Well, here's what. By preserving this 2-acre parcel, the keeper's quarters and the tower, and then providing the history behind it, what we do is we make a connection of all those people. We preserve the idea of all these people that decided they wanted freedom in a lot of different ways, and they were seeking that in America. So what we preserve with that lighthouse tower kind of is hope, determination, risk, planning, and also the idea of success, because they thought they were going They were seeking success. And so a new life and a fresh start. The lighthouse still, I think, represents that because we no longer need them. We have GPS. So we're preserving an idea, partially an idea of what America stands for by keeping the lighthouse. And although we have this function as a gallery, a museum, and the history of the lighthouse and attendant history with the neighborhood and the city of Milwaukee and maritime history. But now, in order to fund this place, we run other events here. Weddings, birthday parties, anniversaries, retirement parties, going away parties, graduation parties. We have Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, school groups from elementary to high school to college level, corporate events. So we have quite a lot of different involvements with the community. So with those involvements, what happens is the people come here, see it's just a unique location, but then while they're here, they learn a little bit about the importance of it and the significance of it.
That's true. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
for that. I also wanted to know from you if you have any other memories with the neighborhood here or the beach here, anything.
Well, I can memories as a child.
Yeah, as
Okay.
a child. And
Well,
maybe how it changed.
Okay, this already was a park by the time when I first came up here. I must have been 6 years old, and the park was already established. The beach had already been established. They already had tennis, golf, a play area. But what prior to that, what I do know is that in the 1890s is when the man that designed Central Park, Frederick Laum, said he designed this park. The golf started in 1903, followed, and then they had tennis shortly thereafter, about 1905. They had a play area by 1907. The Bradford Beach, I believe that came in 1909, and the Lincoln Memorial Drive, I think, was in 1929. Now, when I was younger, the footpath that goes out there and it goes across the two Lions bridges, that originally was a road up until 1964. Vehicle, it was, you could have vehicle access to it, but now it's only county vehicles or law enforcement. So one other memory, though, I have as a child is there used to be a train depot down near the lakefront, and a beautiful old building that they tore down. I think it was, I forgot the name of the railroad, not North Central. But anyway, I remember getting on, my grandparents taking me on that train going down close to the beach it went to, and then shortly thereafter it was removed.
It was a building for the train.
It was a train depot, and
okay.
it was not a small one. It was very large, very impressive. As a child, you were impressed by the size of it, the design of it. When you see pictures of it today, you wish that it was still there. But they said, no, we're not going to have the train down there. We don't need the depot.
So is it the site of the roads and road where it was?
Where this was?
Yeah.
This was down further near where the art center is now. Okay. The other thing that was along here, I know this from one of my grandparents, parents told me, where the Summerfest site is, that used to be an airport, Maitland Field. It was the first airport in Milwaukee, and lighthouses were critical for that because it was the first airplanes relied on lighthouses. They have control towers. They use them as day marks and then at night. But then that was replaced when they took that out and they Mitchell Field, they used to have Nike missiles. It was a Nike site where Summerfest is. And just when I was a child, to the north of this North Lyons Bridge, maybe about 50 yards, was the radio control tower and the service room for that, for the Nike site. So that used to be just not too far from.
What is a Nike site?
The Nike site was missiles that were part of the Cold War. And those missiles were large, and many of them, in most places, they would go down into the ground and they'd bring them up. And the whole idea was that if a war broke out with Russia, the Soviet Union, they would use these missiles to go from here northward toward the Soviet Union. And they were not only here, they were along Lake Michigan. And it was important because the Milwaukee, Chicago, Detroit, this area was a large industrial complex. And so they thought this would be a site for the Russians to bomb if a war did start, so they wanted to have all this protection.
So
And it also was a threat to the Russians.
we also got to know from somebody that there was a shooting range here. So is it the same thing?
Oh, the shooting range, no, that was a rifle and target range. That was north of here, next to the water treatment plant that's up there and across from the Lake Park Bistro. And it was there for a long time, and then a lot of people complained because they said it was unsafe, because these bullets could go past the target and out to the lake, and there's boaters out there, and then somebody could get hurt. So eventually they closed it.
We have also been looking into the matters of the change on the Bradford beach. How it was, and particularly the neighborhood people, they say that it was a quiet beach. Earlier it was unsafe, and then they tried to make it safe, and now they are populating it, and they don't like it. So
As a
anything
child,
you
the
had?
beach, there was just the original building that's, I think, from the 60s. The original building was all that was there originally when I was a child. And there was lifeguard stands, and people came down there, and it was really, it could be crowded, but it was pleasant. As time went on, it became more, a mix of families and teenage or college-age students, and that began to grow more and more. But for a while, it attracted a lot of attention because it was a mixture of people down there that were involved with gangs or drugs, and that got people's attention, so I need a lot of police work. And the city and the county exercised themselves in a lot of discussion about what they should do with the entire thing. Finally, development was the key, along with supervision. And so the sheriffs, county sheriffs, the Milwaukee police, and they have something called park rangers also. They really started to supervise the area quite a bit and remove those people who were inhibiting other people from really having good fun. Then they developed that, what is now it's called North Point Custard Stand, or that was originally just like a hot dog and ice cream. But now it's developed very well, I think for Bartolotta's, and it's quality food. The other adaptations they did along the lakefront, they improved the shoreline with a whole lot of large rocks from that underground tunnel. They put in a platform out there with a flag that's further down. They maintained the grass better. They added rentals for water skis, windsurfing, and other kayaks. And so they started to they've changed it. They added volleyball on the beach. They hosted some volleyball, national volleyball tournaments. Milwaukee Magazine has hosted events down there. They've had the strongman competition down there. They're going to do that again this summer. The Spartan event this summer. So what they've done is say they've made it more exciting. But the crowd I think it still attracts families and children, but they attract a lot more people, younger folk that are looking to meet people and also get involved in an activity. So I would say it's much more active along the entire lakefront than when I was a child.
But when we were there for a week examining things, we we got to know that there was a difference between the people on the Bradford beach and the people who were there on the North Point Custard. The people who were there on the North Point Custard, they were basically older folks, and there were more families there and older folks, and they were like people who just wanted to sit there and enjoy the waters. So there was a difference between the communities on both the areas of the same side.
And what was the other group of people like?
On Bradford Beach?
Yeah.
They were more like people who wanted to work out, people who wanted to play, mainly college folks, young people, and like people who are interested in adventures, and people who are interested to drink.
Yes. Yes, drinking is...
and that is not there on the Custard side. And so both these spaces are opposite to each other in a way.
Yeah,
So
it's always, even when I was a child, the amount of drinking has always been, there's a lot of drinking.
So our main question was that when the residents were talking about these places, they were not so happy about things happening on the Bradford Beach, but they appreciated the North Point Custard and Bartolotta's, adding a lot there and things like that.
Yes, and I've heard some of those conversations. However, the city of Milwaukee is, when you look at the median age, it's a young city, and you must provide. It's good that there are spaces for all of that, because you must. You need a place for families. You need a place for older folk. You need a place for the young folk. Otherwise, there's going to be an imbalance, and then there's going to be more trouble. So, yes, I've been down there, and the people on Bradford Beach, they're louder, they're very active, they drink more, but they're in a place that's easy to monitor. It's really easy to monitor for the law enforcement, because they're right there. You know, you got the water and you got the road, and they're in between. So it's easy to monitor. The problem really, I think, might get over to the traffic, because the young folks, they almost all have their own car, and so there's a lot of cars coming and going. When families come down, there's a lot of people in one car, and the traffic situation, I think, is really one of the problems that people, they say it's just so crowded, I can't drive through, find a place to park, you know. And that, if there wasn't so many young people with all their cars, maybe we'd have more room, you know. Well, there's enough room, it's just, you have to take your time.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, but the other thing is that the people who are opposing these activities on the Bradford Beach, they were kind of prevented by saying that, all these activities are temporary. Though they look temporary, I don't think they are temporary. I think this developments are going to increase.
The development isn't temporary. And then eventually they'll want to improve that original, the original building there, because it's old and needs.
Are you talking about the bathhouse?
Yeah, there's been discussion about let's improve that. Other people like, let's leave it alone. The way it looks, that's the way it would. But on the inside, it can be improved. But there's, I think there's going to be more development, not less, because for these months, this is so attractive place to go. It's so relaxing for a lot of people just to look out on the lake or go on the lake. And there's so many things here along the lake, the art center, the lighthouse, Lake Park Bistro, this whole park system, the Summerfest grounds, the Discovery World. It's just so attractive that there will be more development. Yeah.
Do you remember anything about when the parking lot was added on the lakefront, just next to the Bradford Beach?
I don't recall. That has to be 30 years ago, more maybe. It's quite a while ago.
Because I was just moving on the beach, on that side, and I had some memories talking to people from the neighborhood, and they said that we always visited the McKinley Beach. We never preferred Bradford Beach. And I was just going there, and I could figure out that, okay, this paving for the parking, it looks old. It doesn't look new. So was that a step for a physical difference between, adding a physical difference between the Bradford Beach and the McKinley Beach?
I don't know that was a step to do that. I think that had more to do with the topography, the land itself, and with concerns with erosion. It turned out that way, maybe, but I don't think that was an intent. I doubt it. One of the other things that happened on the lakefront, where the Coast Guard station used to be, and it was removed, there's a huge grassy area there. Now there's a gazebo and an area where people can gather. And that gets a lot of use now. They have rugby games there. That area where the Coast Guard station was, there's a big patio underneath it, and people can gather there for a party or what have you. So I see more people over in that area. Also, they put that footbridge across, which street it comes from. But the footbridge that comes down, put in some sculptures. That really helped. People do a lot of walking on this part of town, and that allowed people to walk from the east side streets right down to the lakefront. That helped the Altera coffee shop, which is the original pump station. That's been really popular. And it was a good way to preserve that site. That pump station is part of actually it's part of a disaster that happened out on the lake, the Crib disaster. But they had the largest screw pump in the world in that place. I think it still is. Of course, they don't use it anymore. So there's a good example of preserving a building for what it represents, but then changing its use to, like what we're doing, get people to come down to the lakefront, and once you're down here, then you not only see that, but you see a whole lot of other things are available for you to participate in or just appreciate.
I wanted to know from you where else you're involved other than the lighthouse, or just I want to know more about your involvement with the lighthouse, and when did you start, and what made you in detail decide to do something for this place.
let's see, that would have been 2008. I got involved with the lighthouse, and I had the time because of what changes I made in my career, and I wanted to be a part of something that was worthwhile, and an opportunity to give back to the community. People appreciate something that was truly unique, and this is it. This is the only place like this, and it's located in such a beautiful place. So, and I have a real deep appreciation of history and architecture. So this just and about the history of Milwaukee, and so it all fit together really nicely. And the people involved here that I met, they have a passion, they have a purpose, and their participation is constant in keeping this place maintained and marketing it, keeping the idea alive of what a lighthouse stood for. So it just was just right. It was a fit.
So what did you do? What kind of help you provided?
Well, what I started to do, they were open. They had just reopened the place in 2007, and they were opening for tours just on Saturdays from 1 to 4. And I said, I think you should really be open on Sundays, and I'll do that. And so then we made it a Saturday and a Sunday. So what I did was open it another day to get more people exposed to it. And since then, well, our number of visitors has really doubled. And the more people that come through here, the more people are interested in using it for other venues, for other ideas, other events. So that was basically what I did. And then I developed the tour to provide tours that were really detailed. So whether some groups want a 15-minute tour, some want a half-an-hour tour, some want a lot of depth and a lot of connections, or some want a specific type of information. Like you get a group of engineers in here and they have certain things that are more interesting to them. Or you get some social scientists and they want to know more about the multi-ethnic connection of the immigrants that were coming here. And so it all really was appealing to me. And so what I've done then is I've developed the tours and added to the history and worked with the curator and worked with the board just to enhance the image of the lighthouse and enhance the experience that people have when they go through here.
So you see this lighthouse as a place for America to be proud about?
Yes.
Can we have a tour with you for some time where you think that that is the most important thing you would not miss when you are giving a tour?
Sure.
I have had a tour with a curator, but from your point of view, I think it would be different.
It would be. And that's what's about the tours here. Depending on who gives you the tour, you'll get a different emphasis. And so, yes, when that will be convenient for you.
Or just a simple question. What is the most important thing you would not miss when you are giving a tour in the lighthouse?
The tower. It's part of 3 lighthouses, 1912, 1888, 1854. That makes this the only lighthouse tower in the United States that is made from parts of 3 lighthouses.
So there's no other lighthouse
tower.
Yeah, towers.
Yeah, there's not another lighthouse tower in the United States still standing that has that history to it. It's also the other thing that we always point out, it's the only lighthouse station within a Frederick Law Olmsted Park. So I'm giving you more than one, but there's one other thing that makes it unique. the longest serving keeper here was a woman. And they didn't hire women. They hired men and gave them that uniform. But now and then, they couldn't find a man, and a woman filled in, and rarely, most time it was the spouse. On 6 occasions in the history of the United States, a daughter took over. That was really rare. That's what happened here. Well, all 6 of those daughters that took over went on to all 6 went on to do over 30 years, putting you in the top tier of lighthouse keepers. And so those 3 things I always make sure that people are aware of.
I've had the tour, so yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I can understand and I can figure out things. The other thing I wanted to talk about was about the house.
Mhm.
So we know that the house was at the edge of the bluff, and then it came. I mean, it had to be taken inside because of the erosion problems. So was it when Olmsted did the park? So was that house a plan of his, or then
The
it
one
isn't?
that,
Yeah.
which one? The one that fell down the bluff?
Yeah.
No, that occurred before Olmsted came here to put in his park. And that was about 150 feet that way, Cream City Brick Lighthouse. That was built in 1854, and by 1884, they could tell they weren't gonna be able to save it. This site was put in 1888, and then Olmsted, shortly thereafter, right around 1890, 92, 93, he was down at the Chicago World Fair, Columbian Exposition, doing landscaping. They got him to come up here, him and his brother, and design this park. So the one that fell down the bluff from erosion had nothing to do with Frederick Law Olmsted.
The new house.
This one.
So the whole tower was also designed as a new thing.
The tower was new, yes. This was the tower in 1888, right? These two. This piece was from the part that fell in. They kept that in that big lens, and then they built this new tower with rectangular windows, bolted cast iron, and that was fine. But this became a park, and all those trees they put in grew up and blocked out the light. So then they had to do that thing where it's they tried a lot of different options, a light ship, put in the breakwater light, talked about building a new lighthouse a little bit further north. Finally they said, no, we'll build a new base of riveted steel and we'll put this all on top of it. And that's what they did, and it worked out just fine. It's the 4th highest tower on all of the Great Lakes.
So
Now, when I say 4th highest tower, I mean how many feet it's above Lake Michigan, because the tower itself is only 75 feet approximately. But we're on an 80-foot bluff here. So when you're up at the top in the Lanthroom, you're 155 feet over the lake. There's 3 other lighthouses that have a focal length that's greater than that.
So the top part of tower is the only thing which was taken from the other house
Well,
and added here.
and the big lens.
Yes.
That and the tower are the only thing that's from the lighthouse that was made of Cream City brick that fell down the cliff, right?
Anything you can remember which I think I missed asking you, or anything else?
Well,
Anything
here's
about the
the-
lighthouse or?
yeah, this is interesting. When storms come, lighthouses always survive. If you noticed when the big hurricane hit New Jersey, in New Jersey, the oldest continually operating lighthouse in the United States is right in Sandy Hook, New Jersey. That hurricane didn't knock that thing down, nor any around the world. You find lighthouses all the way back to the one in Galicia, Spain, built by the Romans in the 2nd century. These things are built to withstand hurricanes, tornadoes, thunderstorms, fierce winds, And so it's a beautiful, I think it's an attractive building, the architecture. It's unique, but it's also very strong. You know, and so that's one of the things. And I've been in that tower when it's been really severe storms. It doesn't move it. You don't feel anything. Earthquakes will take anything, any building down. They'll take a lighthouse down, but they are. So that's another symbol. They're a symbol of durability, stamina. You can rely on them. They're going to be there, you know. So that's the only other thing I'd add right now.
So, Mr. Mike Connor, thanks for the interview, and hope to see you at our exhibition.
You're welcome. Thank you. You have a beautiful smile.
Thank you.
You almost mesmerized me. So.